staking, and then there was a recent yield ops multi-sig post as well. Do you have any questions on those or anything else?
It would be good to talk about all the new stuff on the forum because we have a RFC on the scope of ELABs. We have the member rotation we have to do. We have a new proposal by Chico. So plenty of stuff to discuss, honestly. Some feedback
Hey
from
guys,
iOS as well.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, I'm just here for to listen what will happen, but I don't have questions.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be here for 30 minutes. So anyone can ask anything, and if no one is saying anything, I'll just stay here for 30 minutes. So it's all good.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Hey.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just kick off some discussion on some recent RFCs. Might as well just start with the quick one I did because it seems like the earliest. It's just about expanding the scope of the Yield Ops group to acquire some assets needed to propose governance posts on these lending platforms. The RFC focused on Aave because that's kind of the one that has been in eternal limbo. So if anyone has any criticisms or wants to say they like it or not, now is a great time to do so.
Where can we find this proposal?
It's RFC 43.
Find it right there. So I just posted it in the text chat for the call. Yeah, I didn't really get much activity on it, so I'm assuming right now that everyone loves it. But again, tell me you don't love it, and we can change it and fix it however we decide.
Okay, yeah, I remember now. Yeah, I think we should just push this one forward.
Is it only for Aave or is it a general proposal?
Let's see. So I guess it's for Aave, and then in the implementation section, I kind of included looking at additional protocols and I guess require token purchases to submit the government's proposals. I guess it could be interpreted as just Aave. This is our passes, the yield off will purchase Aave, and in the future other tokens. So it is for not just Aave, but some other token.
So my question is, if you want to make it a general expansion or just targeted for Aave, because regardless of what you've written in the RFC, the RIP can be different based on discussions and feedback we've had. So you could make an RIP that says, I mean, Aave is the short term thing we want to execute on, but we want to expand so the Heal Ups group could do compound, whatever, like any other. So it depends if you want to make a proposal that is sort of general, and
I think I'll definitely generalize the RIP to make sure it's clear that it's going to be for not just Aave, but whatever, Compound, some other thing or whatever. So yes, thank you for commenting that, Max.
But in that case, I think
Noted, and it will be changed.
I think you have to specify, the limits of the proposal, because say you need 10 million uni to make a uni proposal. Obviously, it might not make sense for Ren to purchase 10 million uni, and maybe we can't afford it even. So if you want to make it general, I think it's important to also include the limits, sort of.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Another way maybe is if this sets up the process, but we need additional RIPs for the other tokens that we would like to purchase. But then would be a simple RIP and immediate vote. Does that make sense?
But in that case, we could just make an RIP about Aave. We wouldn't have to go through this prior proposal. So what's the purpose of this proposal if we have to make follow-ups?
Yeah. So if what you're saying, Tom, is that we should just make RFCs for everything, then I will not generalize this and add limits. So I don't care either way. This proposal is pretty short too, so it's going to be easy to copy and kind of tweak it to whatever the next protocol is. So I don't have a strong position either way.
As long as we agree on sort of the limits of this expansion, I think it makes sense to have this expansion. So I mean, 50 Aave is 4,500 USD at this point. So that's 1% of the DAO treasury at this moment.
Yeah, I think if we're going to be talking about percentage of the treasury, I think 1%. What about like 1.5% of the treasury at one point to be allocated to that? I think that's whatever. Seems fine to me. I don't think we should be purchasing 5% of our treasury in some shitcoin, even if it's for whatever 2 days, because we all know the volatility that's involved.
So Tom, what do you think about the limits? Because this could be something that is part of this vote itself. So the vote could be, maximum 1%, maximum 2%, maximum 3%, etc., and a reject alternative, or we just put we just say the limit that we prefer in the proposal, and that's it.
And the limit is the slippage?
No, the limit. I mean, maybe it shouldn't be limit. Like, it could be percentage of the DAO treasury, or it could be USD absolute terms. So it could be like max 5,000 or max 10,000 USDC.
For this particular Aave purchase.
Yeah, well, if it's generalized in the future, like should it be like dollar terms, percentage terms, both, whatever is greater, or whatever?
Okay. And in that case, either way could work. You could say, we allocate like this much percentage for future governance token purchases. So that the way you were thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, if we're making a general proposal, what would be the limits that we propose to dark node operators to vote on? Should we have different alternatives, or should we just say, some limit? Because you could view it. Yeah, it gets pretty complicated. Like, let's say we could put a limit that is maximum 10% of the DAO treasury can ever be allocated towards governance tokens, or you make each purchase can be maximum 1% of the total DAO. I mean, there's a lot of alternatives here, and I don't know what's best.
Yeah, I think to keep it simple, I think using like a 2% threshold. I don't really know any other platforms we're going to be going to right away. So I think this AVE thing is fine. I don't even know what the compound requirement is. I'm sure it's something. But like something like Uniswap, where you kind of have to go through a delegate for the whatever, a million uni, is definitely outside of the scope of this.
Yeah, so should we, when you make the RIP and you make the snapshot vote, do you want to include different alternatives, or do you want to set some limit?
I think I'll just set some arbitrary thing. And then if people ask for reasoning, I'll kind of just say, well, not too much reasoning behind it, just the fact that we don't want our treasury exposed more than this percent to something that we know we're going to be selling anyways at one point, like as soon as it's proposed.
So, I mean, that's an important detail to, I think, something people would be interested in. If the idea is to just sell it afterwards, then I think people would be even more open to a big limit, because it doesn't matter, we're going to sell it afterwards, and slippage and time slippage maybe isn't the biggest risk. If it's something that we have to hold for longer periods of time, that's why it's important that we have a limit. If it's something that you just sell after a proposal is made, I think the community would be, the limits would be less important. So I think that detail is important too.
Okay, yeah.
Because what were you thinking here? Should we acquire 50 Aave and keep it for a while, or acquire 50 Aave, make the proposal, and then swap it back?
I guess, I mean, realistically, I think probably make the proposal for Ren BTC, and then likely probably do another proposal for whatever other coins we want on there, and kind of make all the proposals and then sell the Aave. Because we shouldn't be speculating on the price of Aave. We should just be using it for the proposals. So in my mind, once we're done with these proposals, then we don't really have a need for the Aave anymore.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's makes sense to me. It was just something that I didn't think of when you first made the proposal. When I read it through the first time, I didn't consider this. So it's important, I think, just to mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it's less of an issue in general. Because then we're not sort of exposed to price volatility and that kind of thing. We're less exposed, so.
Hey, folks, do you mind if I jump in quickly here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe in terms of making these direct decisions about what to include or what not to include, how long do we want to hold it? A lot of the times, in the investment management world, a fund or an account will have something that's called a prospectus. And I think that is what we might want. And having a prospectus for this fund, I think, would be helpful in terms of making the actual decisions about what to include or not to include. Prospectus can have things like, this is the primary purpose of this fund. We mostly want it to be in non-risky, more liquid assets to meet whatever those goals are. And so then you could say, okay, and then you can start setting percentage targets like, okay, 10% in governance or whatever makes sense. But having that prospectus is a really, really useful tool for making the types of decisions that you guys are talking about now.
So now you're talking about the whole treasury management itself, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense if you get involved then in the treasury discussion, because this is great. Like knowing this, I don't have a finance background, and a lot of DAO members are just people with different backgrounds. So this, I never heard of this term before.
Yeah,
But it
a
makes sense.
prospectus is it's like a form you have to file with the SEC about the purpose behind what you're doing. Yeah, I think that's definitely something to consider for kind of assets we're going to hold with the treasury. I think this might fall into that category. I'm not too sure, but thank you for bringing that up, TGE.
Yeah, because we're sort of in the process where we have a yield ups group. We don't have a treasury group sort of that has a mandate by the DAO on how to utilize these funds. So we just have a yield ups group that utilizes funds in some kind of liquidity pools and earns some yield on it. That's the only thing that the community has granted this yield ups multisig. So there's been discussions in the yield ups group on how to move forward the whole treasury side of the DAO as it's growing. So these are the kind of things we want to talk about at the moment. And I guess we want to make sure that it's made in a, it can't be too complicated. Like we can't do it like, established big corporation do it. But if there's something that makes sense in traditional finance that we should copy, I think we should do that probably. Because it probably makes sense in that if it is done by other institutions. So TJ, you're saying that in a way we should form a treasury group that has a prospectus. It has a let's see. I mean,
It would be helpful for making decisions about what to include or not to include.
But how
Is it consistent with the perspectives, with the mandate?
What other parts are involved, sort of, are relevant here? Because that wouldn't be the only thing, right? When managing the sort of, in this case, the DAO treasury, what else would you have aside from prospectus?
My big concern would actually be legal liability. Not that it would be doing things that are bad, but just doing in terms of there's a lot of requirements around, which I'm not an expert in any of this, but in terms of managing, making those decisions, there's a lot of legal requirements and potential pitfalls around that. So that would be my big concern. But not necessarily anything that couldn't be. I think the best thing to do is just be very clear about what the fund is trying to accomplish. That's all.
In terms of legal aspects, I mean, that's why we want to establish an actual foundation that sort of handles those liabilities, which the DAO would sort of connect itself to. So the DAO wouldn't be liable for anything. It would be the foundation. We believe that's the sort of the safest approach to do things. So those kinds of things I would be less worried about at the moment. I think the focus for us should be on what can we do in the meantime. How can we organize the DAO, which is a separate structure from the future foundation, which will be incorporated in some country using established protocols, etc. I mean, that sort of thing will be done soon. We have this very loose dynamic structure right now called a decentralized autonomous organization. How can we do decision making in the best way? So yeah, in this case, the treasury, what would be the easiest and most efficient way for us to make decisions about the treasury? Yeah.
Gentlemen, if I may interject, you know, the idea of Ren, I mean, being a, community hedge fund with the treasury doesn't really seem too appealing. But, there's venues here for business development that I feel are like supremely like being underutilized. But for example, we have an idle treasury, or the 7% we've been collecting and how to dispense. And I guess maybe I have to just get off my ass and draft it. But like, for example, we don't do anything with Gitcoin grants, right? Like contributing to Gitcoin grants is a great kind of easy marketing thing. In terms of business development and actual permeation, that's kind of just one way to let people know we're out there. But when we talk about this Aave proposal, even for today's phone call, do we have Chainlink price feeds for all the given assets? I mean, Ren BTC, maybe we can use a Rat BTC price feed, but that's not even that good. If we want to business develop and we want to put Ren assets in everywhere we can, like let's say make them the pristine, decentralized collateral they should be, we need price feeds, and that requires some kind of business development. It might even cost us money, per se, out of this treasury. But I think that's a much better use than trying to manage and deciding, hey, are we going to buy 50 Aave tokens and then do we dump them afterwards? Really the issue is can Aave even on-ramp us? And I think you'll find that unless there's price asset feeds for not just Ren, but the Ren assets we want to on-ramp as collateral, the answer is no, regardless of any Aave we put up. And there's plenty of us that can put up 50 Aave. It would be interesting if there's even like a smart contract escrow that we could do, where community members could contribute instead of just deploying treasury funds and kind of playing make-believe hedge fund. It would be much more, targeted to me to basically focus on business development strategies. How does this treasury dollar result in more bridge traffic? And go from there.
So 2 points on that.
And
we have funds that aren't idle. So we have funds in Convex right now. So this is strictly for earning yield. It's not a hedge fund in that sense. I believe the Yield Ups group hasn't been tasked to make any investments in that sense and speculate on price. So that part isn't much of a worry. In terms of price feeds, so we've always, for any projects we've interacted with, like the Ren team, we've been using the Chainlink price feeds for the asset itself, not the Ren asset, because that's more safe given that the real asset, say Bitcoin, is more liquid than Ren BTC because Bitcoin is traded on all exchanges. Ren BTC isn't. Of course. So that's even safer for DeFi projects to integrate the real price feed because Ren BTC can be redeemed for Bitcoin. So there's always a...
It's perfectly valid. The issue runs into is when I actually would go experience this. You can search my posts in the previous chat, probably from mid 2021, saying, "Hey, gentlemen, I'm poking around nascent times, nascent markets on let's say Optimism or Arbitrum, and nobody will integrate it because they're saying, wait a second, I don't want a WBTC feed. I want the actual asset piece." So I hit kind of a wall where, hey, you can burn it anytime. There's an ARB versus, hey, we actually just want the actual asset. And so this kind of like is a crux where we hit a barrier. So like, for example, if we had Aave's opinion or some kind of post or input from Stani on this topic, it would kind of make more sense than just, hey, let's draft a proposal that will likely fall flat on its face. And I agree in terms of the convex funds. I mean, I'm not trying to masquerade, it's important to generate yield, but to me, it's missing the mark. I mean, I'll give you an example. We don't participate in Vodium bribes. If we're trying to max out our convex flywheel, we should be doing the shifting sands incentives each week. Or every other week, excuse me. So, there's ways to do it, and it feels like we're half-assing it. Pardon my language.
But isn't that dependent on sort of economies of scale? So for some things like Vodium, it doesn't make sense because we don't have enough funds to sort of make a meaningful, take control of the incentive.
You don't necessarily have to take control. It's just for how many dollars you spend, how many CRV are streamed back, and if we dump them back for treasury assets, or if we're going to hold that CRV and start playing, compounding our position. It really just depends. There's also the balance rewards. On Aura, we missed Velodyne, on Optimism. There's many places for this. And again, I understand nobody's like doing this dedicatedly, but if we're talking about how we're going to spend treasury, to me, it's like, I really want to see some business development. I mean, gentlemen, when we go to Ethereum docs, okay, and read about how to spin up Ethereum nodes and be participants in the community, and you get to a section about bridges, we're not even mentioned. And they mention absolute trash. They mention some stuff that's even been broken. Nobody's updated the article in a while, I guess. So it's just, it's a shame. It hurts, as a Ren Chad from the early days, kind of breaks my heart. And it just feels like if we're going to get the ball rolling, and I'll probably draft this. We can have like elucidated points. Like, okay, if we need Chainlink price feeds for our given assets, because money markets won't take them without that, how much is this going to cost the sponsor? Is Chainlink interested in doing it with us? Are these questions even being asked? And I know, like on Arbitrum, for example, would be a great place to get positioned, because if you just go by TDL metrics, there's a substantial amount of Ethereum on Arbitrum, and that huge cloud of Ethereum may want to get off Arbitrum at some point, and we probably won't want to wait a week to do so. So if there's some kind of mechanism where we can position ourselves accordingly, it's screaming to me that we should.
Yeah, I totally agree. The feedback I can get what I've been hearing from partners is it's not price feed related. It's either liquidity, which is sometimes difficult for us to. The Ren team doesn't have like a pile of money that we can deploy, and then we have the issue of risk. So people mention, or projects mention, risk. So even if the Ren protocol has proven to be one of the so far safest projects out there in terms of bridges, people are very scared of bridges in general, and this sort of gets compounded when Ren isn't fully decentralized yet, and that's why the team is focusing on that aspect at the moment to make business development easier, and the whole Ren 2.0 thing, because we believe we can provide a lot of value to developers by having a smart contract platform that's sort of native multi-chain. That's sort of, we believe that's the biggest impact we can do, the team at least. But then the DAO.
I agree. If I may interject, when you said the team doesn't necessarily have the resources, has there been any clarification that perhaps I missed on Alameda's relationship? Because the minimum I assumed was their involvement would mean that at least liquidity issues would be solved. Market making issues for Ren assets would be kind of resolved. Or what did I miss there?
No, that's totally a possibility. It just has to be.
I don't know who's speaking right now. It's very annoying. I hear you, Max, but I don't know who else can mute.
On these cats.
Oh, I apologize.
It just has to make sense for Alameda to provide a liquidity, because liquidity is money, and time is money. So whenever they deploy assets, there generally needs to be some kind of thing they can farm, or volume transactions fees they can harvest. So the team, we can lean on Alameda, but it has to be sort of at the right time when there's actually volume. There's a UI that can provide this kind of user experience that will draw users. So we're focusing on building the foundation so this can be so everything sort of is set up where then they can come in and add liquidity. But it's always,
I agree. Go ahead. Sorry.
Even regardless of our relationship, still they want to make money as well as possible. So we can't just ask for 100 million in liquidity that will just sit there and not generate any yield, because that's not a financial sound strategy for them. So team-wise, we've been focusing on building a couple of things that will provide the value and the utility for users to come and use our protocol. So we can have that in the future. And Catalog will, as you probably can guess, will be a big key to this.
Catalog and Zero DAO. So far, I'm thrilled, but keep them coming.
So,
If I may interject, I wanted to ask, to clarify on the Alameda then. So they, at this time, do they run any dark nodes?
I think Alameda is mostly a hedge fund. I don't think they operate validators on like anything. I don't think they operate Solana nodes even. That's sort of, they might have companies that.
Yeah, they have they like to spin off. They have labs and stuff like this. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, but I don't believe they're running dark nodes because it's sort of
okay.
Until dark nodes generate enough yield, doesn't make sense for them to come in and sort of harvest everything and take everything from regular sized people like you guys running nodes. Then they would sort of take a big share of the revenue, which wouldn't be fair.
I didn't have a chance to do too much chain digging, but I noticed the other epoch, maybe second already, the last epoch, there was 100 nodes that spun up and then 100 nodes that spun down. Were you paying attention? Are those the same people, or it's unrelated?
I have no idea who's doing that, honestly. I don't think anyone on the team knows.
Noted.
It could be anyone.
Noted. Well,
you could probably check. You could probably check like Etherscan and sort of figure out if it's like some big whale or whatever. But I have better things to do with my time. At least I don't care too much.
Fair enough. Hey, I'm just a humble farmer, but when I need to tend to my crops, I want to know who else is raking it in.
Yep.
But it's interesting kind of conceptualization, gentlemen. Like basically, we all understand like there's got to be. You guys are building out infrastructure that, in my opinion, is innovative. I'm proud to be a part of it. However I can assist. And please don't take anything I say like with negative connotation. I mean to like lift you with my words. And it's impressive what you guys have pulled off. I feel like we are not getting necessarily the respect that you have earned. It's very weird to see like projects like Thor. When they had a hiccup, Ren Chads actually stepped in to help. And not only there's no recognition, to this day I see Thor memes on Twitter making fun of Ren. So it's kind of funny, but it's like a cognitive dissonance. And one day, it'll be resolved. But in the meantime, like what can we do to spur that resolution? And I guess it's really just correlating or concentrating. And I'll maybe put out an RFC so I can get a little more detailed. But like, for example, if it's not price fees issues and it's liquidity issues, then we need to hash that out, or they have some kind of endorsement. I personally think it's no problem to put 50 AVE and get it done, and whether we sell or keep, it's zooming out at 50 AVE is likely not going to be a significant portion, for us to hold on to. It's, it'll be okay, especially if that means that AVE is, taking us seriously and on-ramping Ren assets. But it becomes one of those weird conundrums where AVE on ETH main chain really isn't good enough. And so to me, I would see like AVE on Arbitrum would be great. And even better again, and maybe this is where Alameda, heckling comes in, is how to, I'm sure they're aware that there's a shit ton of ETH on Arbitrum. I'm sure they're aware people don't like to wait to take it off. How do we position ourselves as the bridge of choice? Because guys like Seller, guys like, just complete, Stargate, projects that, in my opinion, lack the same type of innovation we're bringing to the table are positioning. And, we're going to be left out. So I'd like to prevent that if possible. Is there something, like there'll be a SmartCon in New York at the end of the month, particularly a Chainlink event. Is anybody from Ren going to represent? Should I be signing up for lightning talks? Do you guys have a 2-minute pitch deck? What can we do to help build this out, tangentially and immediately? Because to me, it's kind of like, it's crazy that I know you guys are working behind the scenes and you guys aren't a hype team, but in a lot of ways, it feels like we need to make sure the ball is rolling and reaching a critical, like the snowball is hitting a critical momentum. Because right now it feels like we're not gathering size the way or at the rate that we should be.
Yes, my sort of thoughts on this. It sounds like it's important for sort of the Ren team that there is a community that has independence and can do stuff and can grow the Ren ecosystem regardless of us. So of course we engage in business development. But it will be extremely fantastic and bring a lot of value to the Ren ecosystem if there is a group within the DAO, the community, that also does business development and can sort of work together with the team on strategies, ideas, connections, and that kind of stuff. Because
perfect. So like a biz dev RFC and perhaps even a portion of treasury for this cost.
Exactly. It could be a new entity within the DAO. It's called something. It gets a mandate from the community, and it could get some kind of budgets from the treasury. And working together.
Max is always your gentleman. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Max is always your gentleman and a scholar. I really, I admire your work already for years. I do have one last question before I let you go, and let other people ask questions. Tell me about Citadel DAO. What am I missing here? Why is the token necessary? Why should we be involved?
I don't believe I'm the best person when it comes to Citadel DAO. I haven't kept track of what's going on at the moment. Has anyone kept track of the latest?
I got no idea what's going on over there. So
They seem to want us to hold staked version of their governance token, whether that's going to be compounding, inflationary, some fees in the mix, whatever. Question is, are we role playing hedge fund, or what are we doing?
Last time I looked into them, they were kind of trying to, I don't know, bring Bitcoin into DeFi. And I think the main Bitcoin representation they were trying to use was Ren. So building off of that, just trying to get Ren Bitcoin involved in DeFi. I'm not too sure. I haven't really looked into them since. I don't know.
I guess I have
April?
to ask then, did we at all sponsor Badger? I remember Badger, and then there was a kerfuffle with the bridge, but initial days, did Badger do it organically, or was there some kind of resource sharing? How did that look? Badger DAO? Anybody remember?
I can't speak to that either. I just know a lot of the Badger guys are big fans of Ren.
Yeah.
So I think they kind of, yeah.
Cool. Well, again, gentlemen, thank you for the time. With Badger, I want to have, if there's vicarious lessons that we can learn so we don't repeat the mistakes, because they basically on-ramped us and they paused the bridge, and now they're comping users out of their own pocket with pretty salty Medium posts about how Ren didn't own up to its portion. And some other guys, Polymer Labs, I guess, are also losers. But in any case, I'm not sure if it's us lacking documentation or whatever it is, but whatever it is, I want to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And if we're talking about on-ramping other DAO-like entities, to learn from our previous mistakes, especially if these guys want kind of money up front or resources up front. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, CereDAO is sort of going to take over that role in Badger anyway, because they're better at building a bridge with Ren, and they have their own unique feature, confirmation as a service, and they do swaps to other assets, and they do gas as a service. So I think they're still, from a technical standpoint, they're a better partner than Badger anyway. I mean, they'll be integrated on Badger in some kind of fashion, and they will provide a better UX, because Badger outsourced that to Polymer, which is now not working on that anymore. So CereDAO is a stronger technical team anyway. So
awesome.
Them taking over that Badger role is better from a fundamental point of view anyway. And we have Varen, which we're trying to also get on, stuff like Ren 2.0. They can do very cool stuff using our protocol. So we're very happy to boost sort of CereDAO and Varen and Catalog as well, which you will see later. But then we also don't want Catalog to compete with partners, so that is a tricky balance for us. We don't want to, build applications that are too good, or we want to make Catalog something that people can integrate and use. So that's also something that is very much strategized about at the moment, making sure that we can have a platform where anyone can come and build native multi-chain applications, utilizing Catalog for liquidity, utilizing tools from CereDAO, and utilizing Varen's UI and stuff like that.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Can I ask you something, Max?
Yeah, sure.
The last time, I think, was or 2 weeks ago, you said that the team are still looking at how it will look with the token implementation. Since the first launch of REN EVM is coming soon, I think in this month, the team must know slowly whether there is an implementation model or a foundation founded by Alameda to attract new developers, because I think that's a game for when you see it how big the developer team is at Ethereum, and they are very much developer, but not from the core develop team from Ethereum, new developers, and yes, I think that makes the ecosystem huge, big, and yes.
So it's not too big of a rush to figure out the tokenomics. It's a discussion we have to have with the community, and we're doing research about this, and we're asking different projects about best ideas. Because regardless, when RenVM is out, it's still kind of a testnet-ish. We need to test that it works, that it connects up with dark nodes properly. Catalog is sort of kind of a Ren EVM test for us. So even if Ren EVM is out, I mean, what that means is that it's open, that people can sort of play around with. It doesn't mean that this is the final Ren EVM network. So the tokenomics thing doesn't have to be worked out before then. We have to make testnets before.
Okay, but when does it have to be fixed, the token model? Yes.
At the time when I guess Ren 2.0, this new network, we will have a chaos network that will interact with live mainnet networks like Bitcoin and Ethereum. But at that point, I don't think we have to have the tokenomics fully worked out. But when we want to move over to mainnet, then it's important, because the tokenomics interacts with the security of the network, and the new network will be decentralized from the beginning. So it's very important that the incentives for spinning up dark nodes are there. So by Ren 2.0 at mainnet, at that point, we can't launch Ren 2.0 mainnet until the tokenomics are fully worked out.
Okay, I see it. I have now opened the roadmap, so it's say Q1 2023 dark node on mainnet 2.0. This is what you mean. At this point, the token model have been fixed.
Yeah, roughly then. But this is sort of like what we're estimating. We have to interact with the community, because this is a big community decision as well. So we're planning to talk more with community on the best tokenomic design. So I think we will make a proposal, because it's very difficult to do research in a DAO when no one has accountability. So we will make a design, we'll propose it, and we will get feedback, and based on that feedback, we will make a new proposal. And we have the whole year for that, we have the whole remaining year for that, at least 3 months, and we have to solve that before we launch mainnet anyway. So if we haven't figured that out yet, we'll postpone mainnet until this is figured out. Yes.
Okay, so till Ren 2.0 on mainnet, till then has been finalized, but before it's everything in testnets, beta phase, and everything. Yes.
Yeah, and ChaosNet, where it's sort of on mainnet, but it's it can break down at any point, so it's not something that you should rely on. So sort of mainnet testnets, or testnet mainnets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So looping back to the question that we were talking about in the beginning, Wes, the RFC, did we come to any conclusion on that?
I think we did. Honey Earl was kind of expressing some concerns about kind of the overall direction of what the treasury is going to be used for. So that's definitely something to know if anyone wants to kind of take charge of that and create another group within the DAO or another pillar to request grants from the foundation from. That's kind of an open invite for everyone. Um, I, I think he also mentioned that he does support the proposal as long as we can get these assets onboarded as collateral. So I think I'll do some more quick research into there to see if these price oracles are required to be collateral or not, and then look into the hurdles to get price feeds or not, and see if that's feasible.
For Bitcoin, we can use the Bitcoin Chainlink price feed. Getting a custom price feed is super expensive, so I wouldn't recommend it. And the Bitcoin price feed is better, anyways.
Okay.
Because that was done for Filecoin. I think there's a Filecoin USD price feed. They aren't using a Renfill price feed. They're using a Filecoin price feed.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I saw that for the Filecoin, and then there's actually kind of a Ren Zcash proposal that's kind of in the same phase as the Ren Bitcoin. Kind of there's like a RFC everyone likes, but then no one made the RIP to get it implemented. So definitely some quick research to do for that. And then if no one...
Matt, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you first.
I was going to say, with what you said, you just gave me an idea, which is, again, to give to the big brains at Alameda, but there's a huge going to be an offer because the type of liquidation bots that run on Nove right now are not going to be ready for Ren assets. They're not tooled. If you have to close the owner, if you have to burn the asset and then redeem for the underlying, you're not going to, right now they just dump in markets. The bot is coded to basically go dump on Curve or go dump on Uni, wherever it needs to. So it'll be interesting to see if there will be specialty bots that exceed, liquidation efficiency for Ren assets that, like you said, they're using a underlying price feed, but that's because the asset can be burned. They might also have to be slightly discounted. I don't know if they'll take 1-for-1 because there is a 0.1% burn fee. And in theory, we minted to get on. Interesting. Please let me know the results of your research. Feel free to DM. I can give you a Telegram handle if that's better for you. Let me know.
Yeah, will do.
Yeah, I certainly think Alameda is using a lot of bots in their sort of revenue generating structure. I don't know if they're running liquidation bots. I don't know generally who's doing these kind of liquidations on MakerDAO and Compound and Aave, but it's probably a good thing to look up. But I think someone will do it. I mean, there's a lot of MIV bots doing these kinds of liquidations. In the case of Ren, that might be, you could do some kind of off-chain thing where you're doing arbitrage with centralized exchanges. I don't know. Like, we could.
Which for market makers like Alameda sounds like a match made in heaven.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think if there were liquidation opportunities, they would take them if we told them about it. So, I believe that thing would be covered, even without us having to do anything beforehand. I mean, we see a lot of regular sized transactions through Ren at the moment. I don't know who's doing them, but it's probably some kind of bot doing it. Sometimes people are minting exactly the same amount of Ren BTC in regular intervals. I don't know who's doing it. It could be some kind of institution or market maker So there's probably people already looking at these kind of opportunities.
Someone looking for that catalog airdrop. I guess to keep this moving forward, I only have 8 minutes before I have another meeting to jump to, but moving to the member rotation of the yield ops, that was kind of given, and we had three applications, and it looks like I'm going to paste here. I'll paste it in call discussions here. It looks like there was overwhelming support for Woodgast to be kind of taken over a multi-sig key, replacing Preston.
I think
so
the
that's
vote is live for 4 more days.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And it's using
So if
using ranked choice voting, which means that even people might have ranked the other options, but Snapshot will only show you their top vote in the UI until it gets contested. So yeah, ranked choice voting makes things look a bit weird. So it might look that people have only voted for Woodgas at the moment, but people might have ranked the other X50 and Jav B1 as well. But I think we need more people voting on this. We just have 200 voting power. I think we have at least, I don't know, we have at least like 4,000 or 5,000 voting power. So we have too few people voting. So get in there and vote on that one.
Would you mind dropping the link in the group chat? Would appreciate it.
Yes. Drop that in the calls.
Yep, so it's posted in the calls discussion channel. That's the snapshot link to vote, which has links back to the forum as well. And then it's posted in call discussions and in the call chat for anyone who doesn't know where it is. So please go and vote. And then I guess we have our last talking point, which was a grant request from Chico Bermuda, or what's his name? David Perkins. So that's a decentralized staking derivative, it looks like. So if you have any questions on that, just ask them here, or you can post them right in the forum. But we'll leave this open for anyone's comments on what this is for the future of Ren.
If someone hasn't read it yet, it's pretty long, so you should go through it properly. But
I was going to say I haven't completed it yet, but as soon as I do, I'll be able to speak a little more intelligently.
He is proposing, a staking, a decentralized staking protocol for Ren. We don't have that at the moment. People have tried previously, but not really sort of gone through or sort of delivered on it yet.
From 40,000 feet altitude, are we looking like a rocket pool model where any amount of Ren, or you need some less than 100K to bond, or are we looking more like a staked ETH, like Lido's implementation, where it's like, hey, any amount comes in, but you're being compounded. Ordinary income is abstracted away as a capital gain. Like, what is this philosophy, or should I just read it first?
I think it's more of the former, but you could. It makes it easier to register in the register, and you can deregister sort of quicker because you can withdraw it.
I got you. He tries to mitigate the 90-day window by saying here's a liquid derivative. I guess I'm trying to understand, is there going to be an additional shitcoin like to incentivize participating in a liquid derivative on top? Are there actually going to be fees generated? And then kind of like the model, there's a lot of liquid like ETH staking derivatives, which ultimately, anyway, there's opportunity there. Some people might like it. Like, for example, Coinbase ETH right now trades at almost 10% discount to spot ETH. So, there could be something there if you're so inclined. But it'll be interesting. Anyway, I'll read the proposal so I can speak intelligently on it. But it'll be interesting if we actually have something compelling there. Are you impressed with this so far? Do you like it, or you don't have thoughts yet?
Yeah, I mean, I've reviewed it, and it looks that there are a couple of really nice features for people that might not. People that are more sensitive, like to user experience, they would really much prefer this kind of way of doing things. Yeah, it makes registration and deregistration and the reward system much simpler for users, which is great now that we're going to a more complicated, or when we're going to REN 2.0, things will be much more serious. Running nodes will have consequences if you're not running nodes properly. All of these things we certainly need some kind of staking pool system to make sure that we can get enough REN bonded without a high threshold for effort. So that's great, and it has things that sort of, yeah, if you have one user who wants to register and one user who wants to deregister, there's a lot of inefficiencies right now in REN, in that then you need one person to start a registration period and a user to start a deregistration period. And that means two nodes will not be engaged in the REN network. But with Chico Bermuda's proposal, you can have it so that there's no node changing, there's no node deregistering, because the person who wants to deregister, they get their stake back, while the person who wants to register, their stake becomes effective. So there's less volatility in nodes registering and deregistering, because you can pair up people. So those who want to leave and those who want to join, there's no change in nodes going offline and nodes going online. So this feature is actually very good for security. And it's not something that's part of the core REN protocol, but it's something that you can have on top of the REN protocol, which is why it's very, impressive, and it's sound. It makes sense.
In REN 2.0, will a smart contract be able to claim rewards? Or could you direct rewards to automatically flow to a contract address? Or we won't, like, for example, if I wanted to claim BTC, but I wanted it in the form of REN BTC on ETH address XYZ, would that process be automatable, or I still have to do it manually?
Yeah, that's all possible to be automated. I think we have all the functions and features live at the network right now, so you could do that. So I don't think it's something
beautiful, because any liquid staking derivative worth its salt better have some kind of smart contract doing the claims, because otherwise it's very hard to make that kind of trust assumption where you'll rely on somebody to claim and deposit and compound for everybody. Which, anyway, yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'll read the proposal, but it's interesting. So I'm glad you're excited. That excites me. So I'll do some due diligence.
Has the REN team played with or looked into using Move or any of this new asset-centric programming language for smart contracts and for safety?
I mean, we've considered it, but at the moment, most developers use Solidity or know about Solidity. So there's a much bigger developer market that can handle Solidity, which is why we went with the EVM for REN EVM. But we can also have other programming models on top of REN. You can have a different subnet that has, say, uses Move and WASM or whatever. So these things aren't excluded in any way at the moment. If there's some framework in the future which everyone sort of gravitates towards, REN is sort of open, and it doesn't discriminate towards any kind of framework. The core protocol, the MPC thing, that does its thing, and then you can have a computation layer on top of it, which could be anything, and it can be different subnets, so it doesn't matter. If Move is the future of crypto, then that could there could be like a move kind of thing on top of Ren, I believe. There's no limits on that.
Thank you.
But yeah, the hour is up. I have to leave. I have recorded and I can upload later on YouTube. So we have it. Thank you everyone for being here. Yeah, if you have any questions, just post it in the text channel and I'll get to it eventually. See you guys.
Thank you, Max, as always.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Max.
Appreciate it, guys. Take it easy.